All right, our next section, 9.8 on radical equations. We have some different sets of problem types. The first is when there is one radical in the equation. So there is only one square root or cube root sign in the equation. The first step is going to be to isolate the radical, which means to get it by itself. Then we're going to raise both sides to the power equal to the index, solve the equation, and check your answer, because some of them may be extraneous. So example 1, we're solving. I'm going to start by checking that the radical is isolated, which it is. The square root is by itself. And since it is a square root, I'm going to square both sides. The square and the square root are inverses, so they cancel each other off. And we have just the 4x plus 1. 5 squared is 25. And then we solve it like a regular equation. So I'm going to subtract 1 and divide by 4. And we get x equals 6. I do a quick check. You can write it, or you can just do it mentally. 4 times 6 is 24. Plus 1 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. So our solution set is just the number 6. On part B, we do need to isolate the radical first, because here on the left-hand side I have this minus 3. And you cannot combine the minus 3 with the 6, because the 6 is underneath the radical and the 3 is not. Instead, I'm going to add 3 to the other side of the equation. So now I have the square root of 5x plus 6 equals 1. Square both sides, so then it's just 5x plus 6 equal to 1. And finish solving, so I'm going to subtract 6. I'm going to have 5x equals negative 5. Divide by 5. And we get x equals negative 1. If I check that, I have negative 5 plus 6, that's positive 1. Square root of 1 is 1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So this is our answer. Part C, instead of having a radical written, we have a rational exponent, but hopefully we remember that the 1/2 exponent means the same thing as the square root. Also, I'm going to move that 2 to the other side and then solve it like the other problems. Square both sides and then solve the equation. So I'm going to add 1 and divide by 2 to get y equals 13. I check 13. 2 times 13 is 26. 26 minus 1 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. So it's good. Part D is a little different because now I have a variable over here on the right-hand side. I still start by squaring, but notice I put the parentheses around the expression x minus 5 because I'm going to have to multiply it times itself, which is going to involve foiling. When I FOIL this, I get x squared minus 10x plus 25. And since it's an x squared equation, I know that I'm going to have to likely factor to solve. So I'm going to make it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 3x and add 11. 0 equals x squared minus 13x plus 36. And then we factor. I need two numbers that multiply to 36 and add to negative 13, which is going to be negative 9 and negative 4. Making two equations, I have x minus 9 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0, so I get x equals 9 and 4. And then make sure you check. I'm going to write out the check this time since I have two x's to sub for. It's a little bit more complicated. So I put in 9. 3 times 9 is 27. And then putting in 9 minus 5 is 4. So the square root of 16 equals 4. So that's good. And then I check the 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. And then putting in the 4 for the other x. So I have the square root of 1 equals negative 1. That is false. So the 4 is an extraneous solution, and my answer is only the positive 9. Part E, we have a cube root instead of a square root. Now the first step is still the same. I'm going to subtract that 5 to isolate the radical expression. And then since it is a cube root, I have to cube both sides. So now I have 2x plus 3 equals 27. Solve that equation, subtract 3, divide by 2, and we get 12. Do a quick check of 12. 12 times 2 is 24, plus 3 is 27. Cube root of 27 is 3, add 5 and get 8. So that one's fine. And then part F, another one where we have the variable over on the right-hand side as well. This is a square root, so I'm going to square both sides. Since I have a p squared, something to the second power, I'm going to solve by factoring. So I need to make it equal 0. I like my leading term to be positive, so I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to subtract the 2p and the 8. So 0 equals p squared minus 2p minus 8. That factors, so I look for two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to 2, both negative, so I have negative 6 plus negative 4, positive 2. And then solving each of those, I get p equal to positive 4 and negative 2. Checking. I'm going to check the positive 4. So 2 times 4, that's 8. So it's the square root of 16 equals 4, which is correct. And then checking the negative 2. It's negative 4 plus 8. And so then what do we have here? That's square root of 4 equals negative 2. That is not correct. So our answer is just positive 4. And we will work more on this section in the next video.